Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're going to start with a proclamation, and I'd like to ask the group from Lincolnton High School to come up, and we're going to present a proclamation on Earth Hour. Come up here, Wolfpack. Just line up across here facing that way, and we'll, if they want to get y'all's picture, I'm going to shake y'all's hand again first. Good to have y'all with us tonight. All right. I'm going to read for just a couple of minutes, but it's going to be a proclamation for Earth Hour. Whereas Earth Hour is a global initiative in partnership with WWF, one of the world's largest and most respected independent conservation organizations, with almost 5 million supporters and a global network active in more than 100 countries. And whereas WWF's mission is to stop the degradation of the Earth's natural environment and to build a future in which humans live in harmony with nature by conserving the world's biological diversity. And whereas since its start in 2007 in Sydney, Australia, Earth Hour has successfully raised awareness about environmental issues across the globe. And whereas now in its 6th year, the annual Lights Out event has grown from a single city initiative to become the world's largest display of environmental action with participation of 135 countries and territories across every continent. Whereas from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, March 31st, Earth Hour 2012 will see hundreds of millions of people around the world across borders of race, religion, culture, geography, and society to unite in a single moment of contemplation for the planet and celebration of their year-round commitment to protect it. And whereas the City of Lincolnton proudly recognizes all who participate in Earth Hour for their dedication to taking a proactive role in shaping the future of our environment and protecting the City of Lincolnton's precious natural resources. Now therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council members of the City of Lincolnton, do hereby proclaim and recognize March 31st, 2012 as Earth Hour, and urge all citizens and businesses to turn off all non-essential use of electricity and join in efforts to help tap the greatest source of low-cost, clean energy and conservation. And I really do appreciate how y'all bring a focus on that and to the fine representation of the City of Lincoln and Lincolnton High School. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Jeff, while I'm thinking, but I know we'll do this anyway, but if we make sure we have a note of that time and make sure those hours, the lights go off and all that.
Yes, sir. We will.
I would appreciate that. Okay, we're going to have a public hearing, and it's an application from Galen's House of Hope requesting the conditional use permit to operate a group home for women in recovery from substance abuse in residential office district. The subject property is located on the south side of McBee Street, approximately 200 feet west of the intersection of North Cedar Street and McBee Street. The address of the property is 322 East McBee, parcel number ID 01114. What I'd like to do is open the meeting to a public hearing and ask anyone that would like to speak to please come forward and be sworn in, please. Anybody that would like to speak on this topic, please feel free to come forward.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do.
out of this sentence.
This application requests a conditional use permit to allow a group home for women in recovery from substance abuse in the residential office RO district. The RO district does allow the requested use subject to issuance of a conditional use permit by City Council. A similar use was permitted for this property in 1993 and then later in 2006. It was permitted for 7 adult beds and 1 full-time employee at that time. This property has been used for the same use in years past, but has since ceased operation. The last use of the property was for a temporary homeless shelter. The property is approximately 0.42 acres in size and is occupied by a 2-story frame house of approximately 4,000 square feet. Land uses in the vicinity are mixed. St. Luke's Episcopal Church is located to the east. There are also several single-family residences. A park is located across the street, and Pathways, a place to grow, is also located across the street. The subject property and all adjacent properties are zoned RO. This is the proposed site plan. The applicant is requesting use of the existing structure for a group home for up to 8 residents. There will also be an on-site manager at all times. No exterior improvements to the site will be made with the exception of a fence between the adjacent property and the single-family house located to the west in this area. Interior changes would be made only if mandated by the state. There may be some cosmetic changes subject to church approval. The applicant indicates there are no plans for a sign and no plans to change the parking lot. The residents will not have their own vehicles at the site. The only vehicles at the site will be a group home van along with 1 or 2 staff member vehicles. The UDO requires that a conditional use permit application contain specific terms and meet specific requirements. The application meets all of those requirements. The staff review committee comments included a change of occupancy permit and a potential grease trap if upgrades are done to the kitchen. The UDO requires that 4 findings be determined by City Council. They are as follows. Number 1, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to plan. Finding number 2 is the use meets all required conditions and specifications. Finding number 3 is the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property unless the use is a public necessity. And finding number 4 is the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and will be in general conformity with the land use plan. In terms of compliance with ordinance requirements, finding number 1, it does not appear that the use would endanger the public health or safety. In terms of finding number 2, the proposed use does meet all required conditions and specifications. Finding number 3, it does not appear that the use would have negative impacts on the value of adjoining property. And finding number 4, the use is in general conformity with the Lincolnton land use plan. The planning board and staff recommendation are both to recommend to you approval of the application for the conditional use permit subject to the staff review committee comments. And staff would be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Mrs. Simmons? There are none at this time.
Yes, I do. Excuse me a second, Ms. Simmons. It says a similar use was permitted for property in 93 and 2006. Was there any problems or anything reported during when it was functional there?
We asked the police chief if there had been any serious problems that could be attributed to that use there, and he indicated that he was not aware of any.
Any other questions? Who signed up to speak first from the public?
Mr. Chris Brogdon.
Thank you for letting me speak on this. I own the property, which direction is it for?
To the west.
Which is a single-family rental property that I purchased. When I purchased the property, it was in the vacant period. While I was had the property, it was the temporary homeless shelter. So I was aware that that has been there in the past. A couple of concerns I had. One is, I disagree that it does not have a negative impact on property value. I think 100% it does. As soon as my tenant found out this was a possibility, they informed me that they would probably move out. I mean, there is an obvious negative impact. Another issue I had was more of a living in the neighborhood. That park is one of a kind in Lincolnton, I think. Just small town park that gets used by hundreds of people a day or a week. I don't know the exact numbers, obviously. Is it worth the risk of potential problems right there at that park? Obviously, nobody plans on problems, but there's something to consider that I would like for y'all to consider. That said, I have talked with the people at the church, and Laura was involved, and I would like to, were the conditional use approved, to make sure that it did have a definite requirement for this privacy fence along the back of the property. That was in some question of that it probably would be done, and I have no reason to think that the staff of the church who I've talked with would not do that, but just to make sure there's no changes last minute or anything, that were this approved, I would want to make sure that was included in the conditional use. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Brogdon. Any questions? Mr. Brogdon. Thank you. Who's next?
Emma House.
Good evening. I'm back. We've talked about this now. This is the third time that I've been involved in, was in 1993. And I can say for the park, because the park has come up as an issue. My own children have played in that park. My little Girl Scouts have played in it, and all the children in our church. So we definitely value that location as it is unique. But we have to go back now, where in '93 we didn't have history to talk about. Today we did. And to my knowledge, there has never been a single complaint by a single parent. We're a downtown church. If there was a problem, we would know about it. So I just want to reassure you that there's no reason to think that there would be a problem there. Secondly, there are so few facilities in this state and in all states for people in recovery. And most experts really believe that's one of the most important things to a successful recovery is just this type of home situation as a halfway house. So I do hope you will consider this in positive. We will be willing to do whatever we can to be good neighbors, as we have been in the past. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm glad.
Any questions for Mrs. House?
Who will address whether or not the fence will be put up? Will it be you or following speakers, or?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Father Smith. Yes, that is an agreement that has been made with the neighbor. In the past that hasn't been an issue, but it is now. So, do you have any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you, Mrs. House. Who's next?
Miles Smith.
Good evening. Obviously, I'm a clergy person. Very proud to be able to have the possibility of having this service return to St. Luke's House after a long, distinguished history. So, and I would just add to what Emma said that we have a verbal agreement with Mr. Brogdon to put the fence in, and we will certainly honor that if you approve it tonight.
Thank you, Father. Any other questions for Father?
I do have one here. The house, how do people, I mean, how do you get your clients, if you will? I mean, how are they referred? Is it some people that just come to y'all looking for a place, or y'all tied to another organization? I mean, how does this operate?
That would be a question for Mr. Holland.
Okay.
Thank you, Father Smith.
Mr. Alder.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Oliver, Executive Director for Phoenix Counseling and Crisis Center. The program will be pretty much a referral base. We have outpatient and inpatient residential programs through Gaston and Cleveland counties, so most of the referrals will come through one of those programs, and individuals that are seeking for admission voluntary only, so they want to be there. No one's going to be court ordered or court referred to into the services. It will be only those that want to be there. And that's the biggest thing, is to focus in on that, is to truly find what's their motivation and are they really truly committed to this. So that's usually the best mode for treatment in that aspect. The program will be a part of our outpatient program that we have here in Lincolnton. We have an office over off of South New Hope, or sorry, South Aspen. I'll do that a lot. I'll try to figure out where I'm at today. We have a center there. The program will be very structured around treatment, around providing services, so they're pretty much busy day in and day out. They'll be back at the center in the evening, or the house in the evening, to do dinner, personal hygiene, that type of stuff, and therefore, and then start the next day for our scheduled treatment programs. So for the most part, most of the ladies will not be there during that period, during the daytime, just in the evening time for usual. And they'll also typically go out like at 8 to 9, usually for some outside self-help program, AA, religious-based programs that are out there. So that's the intent of the program itself. So to incorporate a safe place for women to provide recovery within themselves, also involved in outpatient treatment to deal with counseling, past trauma issues, but also to be a part of the community itself. So it's totally incorporating all aspects of life.
Any questions for Mr. Oliver? I believe I read that the folks that will be staying there do not have their own vehicles, because transportation is provided to these out treatments.
Less access, less. There's a little more structure in that part. You want the women to be going to specific places.
Sure.
We'll transport them to medical. That's what staff are there for. So medical appointments, dental work if they're working afterwards.
All right. Any other questions from Mr. Oliver?
How long does the average person, what's the length of stay?
We're typically looking at about 6 months. That's sort of the program we're sort of developing. We utilize in other programs throughout the state. That's typical.
Y'all use a lot of water?
8 women.
We need you to use a lot of water.
We'll try.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We recognize Mrs. Simmons.
We'll need individual motions on each of the 4 findings of fact at this point.
Ms. Simmons, before we get into that,
Okay.
what's the protocol to make sure, like Mr. Brogdon was asking about the fence, that we know that is a part of this so that there is no question in the future?
That could be added as a condition on the conditional use permit if council chooses to do so.
Is it under one of these four that we need to make that motion, or is it, if it is decided to move forward with this project, a positive motion being made, is it at the end?
At the end,
At the end,
correct.
all right, thank you.
Mayor, if we are at that point yet, what we would want to do is have a motion to consider the request if council doesn't have any further questions or discussions at this point.
All right, it's a pleasure to council.
I move we consider the request.
Motion to consider. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
And we would want to have individual motions on each of the findings of fact.
Okay.
Okay.
We just
Finding number one is the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to plan.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Finding two is the use meets all required conditions and specifications.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Finding three is the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property unless the use is a public necessity.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Finding four is the location and character of the use if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and will be in general conformity with the Lincolnton land use plan and other plans for the physical development of the city or as officially adopted by the city council.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. What is the pleasure of the board? I entertain a motion on this topic.
Well, I'll make the motion, and in so making it, I think it is such a wonderful thing that the church is doing in providing the service for the community. I will make the motion that we approve the conditional use permit to allow the expansion of the church on the condition that the fence will be erected. Is that adequate?
That is.
All right. There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8. It's an application from Harvest Presbyterian Church requesting a conditional use permit for an expansion of the church located in the residential R15 district. The subject property is located on the west side of Lithia Inn Road, approximately 350 feet north of the intersection of Lithia Inn Road and Country Club Road. I'd like to open the meeting to a public hearing, and if there's any speakers, please come be sworn in at this time.
You swear to tell the truth? Yes. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
I pick up the Bible every Sunday, but I don't handle it that way.
I'm going to do the presentation.
Okay.
You know I might have to kid you about that.
Yeah,
This application is requesting a conditional use permit to expand the existing church facility by adding a 1,960 square foot building addition. The property is located on the westerly side of Lithia Inn Road, north of its intersection with Country Club Road. Churches are permitted as a conditional use in the R15 district. The property is 3.68 acres in size and is currently developed with 3 buildings, one of which is a residence. Adjacent land uses are primarily single-family dwellings. The site and the surrounding area is zoned R15. This is the church's proposed site plan. They are proposing a 1,960 square foot addition. The existing residence, which is located in that area of the site, will be demolished and the other 2 buildings will remain. The proposed addition will adjoin the larger of the 2 remaining buildings, which is the one kind of in the front, and it will front onto Lithia Inn Road. The existing parking lot will be restriped. In terms of water supply, watershed, they are exempt from those requirements. The UDO requires that a conditional use permit application contain specific items and meet specific requirements. A couple of minor items are missing from the site plan, including setbacks, parking space dimensions, parking lot landscaping, and street landscaping. The staff review committee comments include reimbursement to the city if any damage is done to Lithia Inn Road. If on-site lighting is installed, it would be downwardly directed and not pass clear on adjacent properties. Plan submittal to the county. Installation of 5-foot sidewalks along Lithia Inn Road within a 10-foot utility easement. Any changes to on-site utilities would be subject to approval by Public Works, and plans must be reviewed by the fire inspector. The UDO does require that for findings be determined by City Council in order to grant the conditional use permit. They are: finding number 1 is the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to plan. Finding 2 is the use meets all required conditions and specifications. Finding 3 is the use will not substantially injure the value of the abutting property. And finding number 4 is the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in conformity with the land use plan. In terms of compliance with the findings, finding number 1, it does not appear that the use would endanger the public health or safety. The proposed use meets all required conditions and specifications subject to the items mentioned earlier. Finding number 3, it does not appear that the use would have any negative impacts on the value of the adjoining property. And finding number 4, the use is in conformity with the land use plan and should be in harmony with the area. From the planning board and staff perspective, we do recommend approval of the conditional use permit to allow the expansion on the condition that the missing items required for a conditional use permit are provided and subject to the staff review committee comments. Happy to answer any questions if you have any at this point.
Any questions from Ms. Simmons?
At the public hearing, were there any of the neighbors in disagreement with the request?
At the planning board meeting, we had no adjoining property owners or other speakers other than the church.
Pastor Marshall.
I asked her what I should say, and she said I should say, do you have any questions for me? I have a sermon, I'm ready. We're excited about what we're doing. Our church is the church known as the church that doesn't face the road. If you've ever been by it, the door doesn't face the road. I'm not from here. When I went up to the bank to talk to them about the church, they said, oh yeah, you're the one with the church that doesn't face the road. This is our opportunity to add 2,000 square feet to the front. It's basically going to be an entrance. It's going to have a stone front matching the architecture there. And we really are trying to get more curb appeal. That's what we're trying to do, and make it more handsome. And I will tell you now that our hope is, as we grow, and we've already grown, that we'll put a new sanctuary behind that, going away from Lithia Inn, largely protected and behind the new beautiful rock entry. So that's our hope. And we are going to be doing a new sign which will be all rock as well, which is much more in keeping with our neighbors out in the golf course. So we feel like we've been an eyesore for long enough, is really our attitude. So the house is also dilapidated, and so we're tearing it down.
Are there any questions for Pastor? Okay, questions? Thank you, Pastor Marshall. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion to consider?
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Well, I have individual motions and votes on each of the 4 findings of fact. Finding number 1 is the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to plan.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Finding 2 is the use meets all required conditions and specifications.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Finding 3, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property unless the use is a public necessity.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And finding 4 is the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan, as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and will be in general conformity with the land use plan.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion, we approve the conditional use permit for the expansion of the church.
Okay, motion. I'm
On
sorry.
the listed conditions.
All right. A motion to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations on the success you're having there, Pastor Marshall.
Thank you.
Item number 9, a proposed amendment to the city's code of ordinance, the fee schedules, utility deposits, allowing renters to having 24 months of good payment history with the city will also be exempt, and then the commercial lighting rebate and extra facilities charge. I'd like to recognize Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Mayor. Each of these items was discussed at the last meeting, and because it's an ordinance change or a fee schedule change, a hearing is required. But you just stated the 3 items that we are considering. Council at the last meeting seemed to be in favor of each item. As you said, it's a change to the residential electric deposit schedule, a commercial lighting rebate program. That's the one Mr. Peeler talked about at the last meeting, I believe. Then the extra facilities charge, which is necessary for the lighting at the Lincoln campus of Gaston College. And it is a public hearing. After you close the hearing, after any comments, council would be able to take action, and I believe one motion could approve each item.
Okay. And I failed to open the public hearing there. I apologize. So we'll open the meeting to a public hearing. And is there anyone else that would like to speak on this topic? There are none. Okay. Any questions or anything for Mr. Emery at this point? Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. now we would need to have a motion to
Yes.
approve or deny this proposal.
I move we approve.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to approve this proposal. Is there any further discussion?
I just briefly.
Go ahead, I had one too, you go right ahead.
How will the public know what action we're taking, other than the news media?
What we normally do if we have a change, we'll at least print out something to have at the counter for customers. We can also put it on the city's website, and if council would like, we can also do run an advertisement in the paper as well if you'd like for us to.
Whatever's necessary to let the public know. I'm not going to make a suggestion. I just want to know how they would know.
We'll discuss that and come up with a plan.
Very good.
As I read through the fee schedule, I noticed the change on page 1 where it said renters having 24 months of good payment history with the city of Lincoln will also be exempt. Do we need to define good? We need to dial in on that a little bit.
Mayor, the way we were going to define it internally is if you had had no late payments or default fees. TJ, if you think we should add that to this, we can. But that's our criteria, that you've had no late payments on your utility bill.
Okay.
Or no default, but that's a good question. If you think we need to add it, we could add that.
You could
on
just
the
add a line
schedule.
right under it, and then that would give them some objective standard to go by. They say, well, okay, well, mine's good. We know you had 2 late payments.
That's right.
That's why you say good payment history is done.
Right.
So I think that's fine. Add that line.
We can
To me,
easily
it might
add
help
it
our
to
folks in
default.
accounting. It might make it a little clearer for them.
That's on the point. We can add that, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 10 is concerning the contract, a proposed contract between the city and Lincoln County for facility charges for lighting at Gaston College, Lincoln campus.
Thank you. This was on your agenda last month as well, and we actually discussed it. The council elected to not take action until this meeting, once the ordinance had actually been amended. But this is the agreement with Gaston College pertaining to the lighting at the facility. City attorney drew this up, and it's really a contract that deals with all the parking lots that use the extra facilities type arrangement for payment. And again, I would remind you, Gaston College, they requested this time arrangement where they pay extra facilities charge, but we maintain the lights and the structures in the parking lot if something happens. And